A woman with nothing but a crumpled letter steps onto a billionaire's property at midnight. Inside that letter, a dead man's final request and a proposal that breaks every rule Adrian Hale lives by. 3 days later, they're married. 3 weeks later, someone burns his empire to the ground. This isn't a love story. It's a war dressed as one. And by the time you reach the end, you'll understand why sometimes the most dangerous thing a man can do is open his door to a stranger. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. Hit that like button and stick around until the very end. You won't regret it. The gravel crunched under Clara Bennett's boots as she stood at the edge of the driveway, staring up at a house that didn't look like a house at all. It looked like a fortress, stone and glass and sharp angles cutting into the twilight sky. Somewhere behind those windows was Adrian Hale, a name she'd heard only twice in her life, both times from her father's mouth, both times with a weight that suggested the man wasn't just rich. He was something else entirely. Her car had died 4 miles back. Radiator gave out in a cloud of steam that smelled like burnt metal and defeat. She'd left it on the side of the road with the hazards blinking, grabbed the only thing that mattered from the glove box, and walked. The letter sat folded in her jacket pocket now, soft from being opened and refolded too many times. Her father's handwriting. Shaky toward the end, but still his. If you ever run out of options, find Adrian Hale. Tell him what I did for him. He'll remember. She didn't know what her father had done. He'd never said. Just wrote the letter 3 days before he died and made her promise to keep it safe. Just in case, he'd said. Well, this was the case. Clara took a breath and started up the driveway. It was longer than it looked. By the time she reached the front door, her legs were shaking, not from the walk, but from the reality of what she was about to do. Knock on a stranger's door and ask for help based on a letter from a dead man. She raised her hand. The door opened before she could knock. A man stood there, tall, maybe 6'2", dark hair that looked like he'd been running his hands through it all day, sharp jaw, eyes that didn't give anything away. He wore jeans and a black shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and he looked at her the way you'd look at something unexpected but not necessarily welcome. "Can I help you?" His voice was low, flat. Clara swallowed. "Are you Adrian Hale?" "Depends on who's asking." My name is Clara Bennett. She fumbled for the letter, pulled it out, held it toward him like it might explain everything. "My father knew you. He told me to come here if I ever needed help." Adrian didn't take the letter. He just looked at it, then at her. His expression didn't change. "I don't know you, he said. "And I don't know your father." His name was Joseph Bennett. He said he saved your life once. Something flickered across Adrian's face. Not recognition. Something harder to read. He reached out slowly and took the letter. Clara waited while he unfolded it, watched his eyes move across the page. The silence stretched. Somewhere in the house, a clock ticked. When he finally looked up, his face was unreadable again. "You walked here?" "My car broke down." He glanced past her toward the driveway. "Where?" 4 miles back, maybe 5. "It's almost dark." "I know." He studied her for another long moment, then stepped aside. "Come in." Clara hesitated. Something about the way he said it. Not kind, but not cruel either. Just factual. Like he'd made a calculation and decided letting her in was the least complicated option. She stepped inside. The house was as cold as it looked from the outside. High ceilings, stone floors, furniture that probably cost more than she'd made in the last year. Everything clean and arranged and untouched, like a museum. Adrian closed the door behind her. "When did your father die?" 2 months ago." "I'm sorry." It didn't sound like an empty platitude. It sounded like he meant it, which somehow made it worse. "He had cancer," Clara said. "Lung. It moved fast." Adrian nodded. He was still holding the letter. "He never told you what he did?" "No." "Figures." He folded the letter back up, handed it to her. 15 years ago, I got jumped outside a bar in Denver. 3 guys. I was 22 and stupid and drunk enough to think I could handle it. Your father was walking by. He didn't just call the cops, he stepped in. Took a knife meant for me. Clara felt something drop in her chest. He never said anything about that. He wouldn't. That's who he was. Adrian looked at her differently now. Not softer exactly, but like she'd gone from stranger to something else. He tell you to ask me for money? No, he just said you'd help. Help how? Clara didn't have an answer to that. She hadn't thought past getting here. I don't know. What happened? I lost my job. Lost my apartment. I've been staying with a friend, but that's done now too. I don't have family, I don't have savings, I don't have anything except that letter and the idea that maybe someone out there owed my father something. She hated how it sounded, like begging, but it was the truth. Adrian didn't say anything for a while. He just looked at her, and Clara got the sense he was doing the same kind of math he'd done at the door. Weighing options, measuring risk. You can stay tonight, he said finally. There's a guest room upstairs. We'll figure out the rest in the morning. I don't want charity. It's not charity, it's paying a debt. Before Clara could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. Dad? They both turned. A little girl stood at the edge of the room, maybe 7 or 8, dark hair pulled into a ponytail, bare feet. She wore pajamas with stars on them and held a stuffed rabbit by one ear. Who's that? The girl asked. Adrian's whole posture changed. Not softer, but something close to it. Someone who knew your grandfather a long time ago. The girl looked at Clara with the kind of curiosity only kids have. No judgment, just interest. Are you staying for dinner? Clara glanced at Adrian. He gave the smallest nod. I think so, Clara said. Okay. The girl padded forward, stopped in front of Clara, stuck out her hand like a tiny businesswoman. I'm Emma. Clara shook it. Clara? That's a pretty name. Thanks. So is Emma. My mom picked it. There was a beat of silence. Adrian's jaw tightened. Go wash your hands, he said quietly. I'll heat up dinner. Emma nodded and disappeared down the hall. Clara heard a bathroom door close. I'm sorry, Clara said. For what? I didn't know about your wife. How would you? Adrian walked toward the kitchen. She died 3 years ago, car accident. Emma doesn't talk about it much, but she remembers. Clara followed him into a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine. All stainless steel and granite and lights that hung from the ceiling like industrial sculptures. Adrian opened the fridge, pulled out a container. You allergic to anything? No. He started transferring food into a pot. Some kind of pasta. It smelled good. How old are you? He asked without looking at her. 30. Ever been married? No. Why not? Never found the right person. Or the right time. Or maybe I was just too broke to think about it. Adrian almost smiled. Almost. Fair. What about you? Besides your wife, I mean. Besides her? He turned the stove on. She was it. We met in college. Got married at 24. Had Emma 2 years later. I thought we'd have 50 years together. We got 7. I'm sorry. You already said that. I mean it. He looked at her then. Really looked. And for the first time since she'd arrived, Clara saw something in his eyes that wasn't calculation or caution. It was exhaustion, the kind that comes from holding everything together for too long. I know you do, he said. They ate dinner at a table big enough for 12. Just the 3 of them. Emma talked the whole time, about school, about her rabbit, about a girl named Sophie who could do a cartwheel better than anyone. Adrian listened and responded when he needed to, but mostly he just watched his daughter like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Clara tried not to feel like an intruder, but that's what she was. After dinner, Adrian told Emma to go brush her teeth. She hugged him goodnight, then turned to Clara. Are you still going to be here tomorrow? Clara glanced at Adrian. He didn't say anything. I don't know yet, Clara said. I hope so. Then she was gone. Adrian started clearing the table. Clara helped. They worked in silence until the dishwasher was loaded and the counters were wiped down. You're good with her, Clara said. I don't have a choice. That's not what I mean. You're patient. You listen. A lot of parents don't. A lot of parents have partners. He dried his hands on a towel. I don't. That can't be easy. It's not. But it's what I've got. He led her upstairs to a guest room that was almost as big as her old apartment. Clean white sheets, a window that looked out over the property, a bathroom attached. There's towels in the closet, Adrian said. If you need anything, I'm down the hall. Thank you. He nodded, started to leave, stopped at the door. That letter, he said. Your father wrote something at the end about you needing a fresh start. What did he mean? Clara sat down on the edge of the bed. I made some mistakes, trusted the wrong people, lost things I shouldn't have lost. He was worried I'd end up with nowhere to go. And now you don't. Now I'm here. Adrian looked at her for a long time. Then he said something that didn't make sense. I'm going to make you an offer tomorrow. It's going to sound insane, but I need you to think about it before you say no. What kind of offer? The kind that solves both our problems. And then he left. Clara sat there in the quiet, staring at the door. She didn't know what he meant, didn't know what problems he thought she could solve, but she'd come this far. She could wait one more night. Morning came with light so bright it felt aggressive. Clara woke up disoriented, tangled in sheets that smelled like lavender and something expensive. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then it all came back. The letter, the walk. Adrian Hale. She got up, found her clothes folded on a chair. When had she even taken them off? And got dressed. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror looked like someone who'd been running for a long time and just now stopped. Downstairs, she found Adrian in the kitchen. He was making coffee. Emma sat at the counter eating cereal and swinging her legs. Morning, Adrian said. Morning. He poured her a cup without asking, slid it across the counter. She took it. Black, strong. Exactly what she needed. Emma looked up from her cereal. Do you have any kids? Emma, Adrian said. What? I'm just asking. No, Clara said. I don't. Do you want any? Someday, maybe. I think you'd be a good mom. Clara didn't know what to say to that. Adrian gave his daughter a look. Finish your breakfast. Bus comes in 20 minutes. Emma sighed dramatically but kept eating. Adrian turned to Clara. We need to talk after she leaves. Okay. They waited in relative silence. Emma finished her cereal, grabbed her backpack, hugged her father, waved at Clara, and ran out the door. A few minutes later, Clara heard the bus pull up and leave. Adrian refilled his coffee. Let's sit. They moved to the living room. Adrian took the chair across from the couch. Clara sat and waited. I'm going to be blunt, he said, because I don't know how else to do this. Okay. I need a wife. Clara blinked. What? Not a real one. I mean, he stopped, rubbed his face. This is coming out wrong. Try again. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. My business is a farm empire. Agricultural holdings across 3 states, worth about $200 million, give or take. My Aunt Victoria has been trying to take control of it since my wife died. She thinks I'm too young, too emotional, too whatever. She's been waiting for me to slip up. I'm not following. There's a clause in the trust my grandfather set up. If the primary heir is deemed unfit to manage the estate, control can transfer to a senior family member. Victoria's been building a case. Says I'm neglectful, that I prioritize Emma over the business, that I'm not stable enough to run things. Are you? Am I what? Stable enough? Adrian's jaw tightened. I'm doing the best I can. That's not what I asked. He stared at her. Yes, I'm stable. I'm not neglectful. I'm a good father and a good businessman. But perception matters. And right now, the perception is that I'm a single father who's barely holding it together. So you want a wife to change that perception? Yes. Clara set her coffee down. You're insane. Probably. You don't even know me. I know your father saved my life. I know you walked 5 miles in the dark to ask for help. I know you don't have anywhere else to go. And you think marrying me solves your problem? I think it makes Victoria's case fall apart. She can't argue I'm unstable if I'm married. She can't argue I'm neglecting Emma if there's a second parent in the house. And she can't argue I'm too emotional if I'm making rational, forward-thinking decisions. Clara laughed. It came out sharp. This is the opposite of rational. Is it? You need a place to stay. I need someone to play a role. We both get what we want. For how long? A year, maybe 2. long enough for Victoria to back off and for me to restructure the trust so she can't challenge it again. And then what? Then we get a quiet divorce. You walk away with enough money to start over. I keep my business. Emma gets stability. Everyone wins. Clara stood up, started pacing. But this is crazy. I know. You're asking me to marry you. On paper. That's still marriage. It's a contract. She turned to face him. What does Emma think about this? She doesn't know yet, but she likes you. She asked if you were staying. That's different from asking if I'm marrying her father. I'll talk to her. Explain it in a way that makes sense. There's no way to explain this that makes sense. Adrian stood up too, crossed the room until he was close enough that Clara had to tilt her head to look at him. You came here because you had no other options, he said quietly. I'm giving you one. It's not perfect, it's not normal, but it's real. And it's on the table. Clara felt her pulse in her throat. What if I say no? Then I'll give you money for a hotel, help you find a job, do what I can. But this offer, it's only good right now because if I'm doing this, I need to do it fast. How fast? 3 days. Clara's breath caught. You want to get married in 3 days? I want to file the paperwork in 3 days. The ceremony can wait, or we can skip it entirely. Doesn't matter. She stared at him, tried to find some sign that he was joking, but his face was dead serious. You're really going to do this, she said. If you say yes. What if it doesn't work? What if Victoria doesn't back off? Then we deal with it, together. We don't know each other. We'll learn. Clara closed her eyes, tried to think, but her mind was spinning too fast. This was insane, completely insane. But he was right about one thing. She didn't have any other options. I need time to think, she said. You have until tonight. That's not enough time. It's what I've got. She opened her eyes, looked at him. If I say yes, I'm not just playing a role. If I'm living here, if I'm around Emma, I'm going to care. I'm going to get involved. You can't ask me to be a ghost. I'm not asking you to be a ghost. I'm asking you to be present. And when it's over, when we divorce and I leave, then we handle it like adults. We explain it to Emma. We make sure she knows it's not her fault, and we move on. You make it sound easy. It won't be, but nothing worth doing is. Clara turned away, walked to the window. Outside, the farm stretched out in every direction, fields and barns and fences and sky. It looked peaceful, like a place where you could breathe. She thought about her father, about the letter, about the fact that he'd trusted Adrian Hale enough to send her here. Maybe that meant something. Maybe it didn't. I'll give you an answer tonight, she said. Okay. Adrian left her alone. Clara stood at the window and tried to figure out what the hell she was going to do. She spent the day walking the property. It was massive, bigger than she'd realized, crops she couldn't name, equipment she'd never seen before, workers who nodded at her as they passed but didn't stop to ask questions. It felt like a different world. By the time Emma got home from school, Clara had made a list in her head, pros and cons, reasons to say yes, reasons to run. The cons list was longer, but the pros list had one thing the cons didn't, nowhere else to go. Emma found her sitting on the porch. Hi. He checked. Dad says you're thinking about staying. Clara glanced at her. He told you that? Kind of. He said you might live here for a while, like a guest. How do you feel about that? Emma shrugged, sat down next to her. I don't know, it's been just me and Dad for a long time. I know. But it's kind of lonely sometimes. Yeah? Yeah, I mean, Dad's great, but he's always working, and he doesn't really talk about stuff. Not like Mom used to. Clara's chest tightened. I'm sorry. It's okay. I'm used to it. Emma picked at the hem of her shirt. Do you think you'll stay? I don't know yet. I hope you do. Why? Emma looked up at her. Because you seem nice, and Dad seems less sad when you're here. Clara didn't know what to say to that. They sat in silence for a while. Then Emma said, Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you believe in second chances? What do you mean? Like, If something bad happens, do you think people get a chance to fix it? Clara thought about her father, about the mistakes she'd made, about standing on Adrian's porch with nothing but a letter and a prayer. Yeah, she said. I think they do. Emma smiled. Good. Me too. That night, after Emma went to bed, Clara found Adrian in his office. He was sitting at a desk covered in papers, staring at a computer screen like it had personally offended him. Can I come in? She asked. He looked up. Yeah. She stepped inside, closed the door behind her. I have conditions, she said. Adrian leaned back in his chair. I'm listening. If I do this, I'm not just a prop. I'm part of Emma's life. I'm part of this house. I help with things. I contribute. Agreed. And when it's over, you help me get back on my feet. Not just money, connections, a real job, a real life. Done. And if at any point this hurts Emma, we stop, no matter what it means for your business. Adrian's expression shifted, something like respect. Deal. Clara took a breath. Okay. Okay. Yes, I'll do it. Adrian stood up, crossed the room, held out his hand. Clara shook it. 3 days, he said. 3 days. And just like that, her life changed. The next 72 hours were a blur. Adrian handled the legal paperwork. Clara signed documents she barely read. They went to a courthouse that smelled like floor polish and old coffee. A clerk who looked half asleep processed their marriage license. No ceremony, no vows, just signatures and a stamp. When it was done, Adrian turned to her. That's it? That's it? You're officially Clara Hale. The name sounded wrong, like wearing someone else's coat. They drove back to the house in silence. Emma was at school. The property felt too quiet. I'll move your things to the main bedroom, Adrian said as they walked inside. Clara stopped. What? Victoria's going to visit, probably soon. If we're married, we share a room. That's how it works. You didn't mention that. I'm mentioning it now. Where are you going to sleep? Same room, different side of the bed. Clara felt heat rise in her face. You can't be serious. I'm not asking you to do anything except sleep in the same room. There's enough space. We're both adults. We can handle it. This is insane. You said that already. Because it's still true. But she didn't argue. Because he was right. If they were going to sell this, they had to commit. That night, Clara stood in the doorway of Adrian's bedroom, now their bedroom, and felt like an intruder all over again. The bed was huge, king-sized. He'd put her things on the left side. His were on the right. I'll stay on my side, he said from behind her. You better. I'm not interested in you that way. It shouldn't have stung, but it did. Just a little. Good, Clara said, because I'm not interested in you either. Then we're clear. They got ready for bed in awkward silence. Clara changed in the bathroom. When she came out, Adrian was already under the covers, facing the wall. She climbed into her side. The mattress barely moved. Good night, she said. Night. Clara lay there in the dark, listening to him breathe. This was her life now, married to a stranger, sharing a bed with a man who didn't want her, playing house for a little girl who deserved better. She closed her eyes and tried not to think about how badly this could go wrong. Victoria Hale arrived 4 days later. Clara was in the kitchen when the black SUV pulled up. She watched through the window as a woman in her 50s stepped out. Tailored suit, perfect hair, the kind of posture that screamed money and power. Adrian came downstairs. That's her. She looks terrifying. She is. The doorbell rang. Adrian squeezed Clara's shoulder once, brief, impersonal, and went to answer it. Clara heard voices, polite, cold, then footsteps. Victoria walked into the kitchen like she owned it. Her eyes swept the room, landed on Clara, and narrowed. You must be the new wife, she said. Clara forced a smile. Clara. Victoria Hale, Adrian's aunt. She didn't offer her hand. I have to say, this is all very sudden. We didn't see the point in waiting, Adrian said. How romantic. Victoria's tone said it was anything but. She turned to Clara. How did you two meet? Clara had practiced this. Through my father. He and Adrian knew each other years ago. And your father is? Dead. Victoria blinked. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? The room went silent. Adrian's jaw tightened. Victoria smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. I like her. She's got spine. Is there a reason you're here? Adrian asked. Can I visit my nephew? You can. You usually don't. Victoria's smile faded. I wanted to meet Clara, make sure she's real. She's real. And this marriage, it's legitimate? It's legal. That's not what I asked. Adrian stepped forward. What do you want, Victoria? I want to make sure you're not making another mistake. You've already lost your wife. I'd hate to see you lose your daughter, too. Clara felt her blood turn cold. What's that supposed to mean? Victoria looked at her. It means single fathers have a hard time keeping custody when they're deemed unfit. And Adrian's been teetering on that edge for a while now. I'm not unfit, Adrian said quietly, dangerously. Then prove it. Show me this marriage is more than a legal stunt. Show me you're building a real family. She left after that. Didn't stay for coffee. Didn't say goodbye. Clara stood in the kitchen, shaking. She threatened you, she said. She threatened Emma. What are we going to do? Adrian looked at her. We're going to make her believe it's real. How? By living like it is. And that's when Clara realized this wasn't just about paperwork anymore. This was war. Victoria's visit changed everything. The next morning, Clara woke up to find Adrian already dressed, standing by the window with his phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, clipped, business mode. I don't care what the projections say. We're not selling the North acreage. Tell them no. He hung up, didn't turn around. Trouble? Clara asked. Always. He pocketed his phone. Get dressed. We're going into town. Why? Because Victoria's watching, and married people go places together. Clara sat up. You think she's actually watching? I know she is. She's probably had someone on the property since yesterday. That's paranoid. That's experience. They drove into Millbrook, the nearest town, population 8,000, in Adrian's truck. It was a 15-minute ride through fields that stretched forever. Clara watched the landscape roll by and tried to remember the last time she'd been anywhere that felt this open. The town itself was small. One main street, a diner, a hardware store, a bank that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. People walked slow, talked slower. Adrian parked in front of a place called Rosie's Cafe. We eat here every Saturday. Emma loves their pancakes. So we're establishing routine. We're living our lives. Victoria just happens to be paying attention. Inside, the cafe smelled like coffee and bacon grease. A woman in her 60s looked up from behind the counter, saw Adrian, and smiled. Well, look who finally brought a guest, she said. Rosie, this is Clara, my wife. The word still felt wrong in Clara's mouth, but Rosie's face lit up like someone had plugged her in. Wife? Adrian Hale got married and didn't tell me? It was quick, Adrian said. I'll say. Rosie came around the counter, grabbed Clara's hands. Honey, welcome to the family. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for this man to find someone. Clara managed to smile. Thanks. Sit. I'll get you both coffee. The usual, Adrian? Yeah, and whatever Clara wants. They slid into a booth. Clara picked up the menu even though she wasn't hungry. She seems nice, Clara said quietly. She is. She also talks. By noon, the whole town will know I got married. Is that the plan? Part of it. Rosie brought coffee. Clara ordered toast. Adrian got eggs and bacon. They sat in silence until the food came. This is weird, Clara said. What is? Acting like a couple. We barely know each other. Then ask me something. Clara looked at him. Okay, what's your favorite color? Seriously? You said ask. Adrian sighed. Blue. The kind you see right before the sun comes up. Your turn. Green. Forest green. Favorite food? Pasta. Any kind. You? Steak. Medium rare. Coffee or tea? Coffee. Black. Same. They went back and forth like that. Small things. Stupid things. Favorite movie. Least favorite season. If they could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? By the time they finished eating, Clara realized something. She was starting to like him, not in a romantic way, but in the way you like someone who doesn't bullshit you, who says what they mean and means what they say. It was dangerous, because this wasn't real, but it felt real enough. When they got back to the house, Emma was in the living room with a babysitter, a college girl named Megan, who looked relieved to see them. "She's been asking about you all morning," Megan said to Clara. Emma ran over. "Where did you go?" "Into town," Clara said. "Your dad and I got breakfast." "Without me?" "Next time you can come." Emma seemed satisfied with that. She grabbed Clara's hand. "Want to see my room?" Clara glanced at Adrian. He nodded. Emma's room was on the second floor. Pink walls, stuffed animals everywhere, a bookshelf packed with stories. It looked like a normal kid's room, except for the photos. There were dozens of them. Emma and Adrian. Emma and a woman Clara assumed was her mother. The three of them together, smiling like nothing bad could ever happen. "That's my mom," Emma said, following Clara's gaze. "She's beautiful. Dad doesn't like talking about her." "Why not?" "I think it makes him too sad." Clara sat down on the edge of the bed. "Do you talk about her?" "Sometimes. At school, we did this thing where we drew pictures of our families. I drew Mom, even though she's not here anymore. My teacher said that was okay." "It is okay." Emma climbed onto the bed next to her. "Do you miss your dad?" "Every day." "Does it get easier?" Clara thought about lying, but Emma deserved better than that. "No," she said, "but you get better at carrying it." Emma leaned against her, just a little, like testing the weight of something fragile. "I'm glad you're here," she said. Clara's throat tightened. "Me too." That night, after Emma went to bed, Clara found Adrian in the barn. He was fixing something on a tractor, hands covered in grease, face set in concentration. "You know what you're doing?" Clara asked. "More or less." "Need help?" "You know how to fix a carburetor?" "No, but I can hand you tools." He almost smiled. "Wrench, the big one." They worked in silence for a while. Clara handed him things when he asked. Otherwise, she just watched. "Emma showed me her room," Clara said eventually. "Yeah?" "There are a lot of pictures of your wife." Adrian didn't look up. "I haven't had the heart to take them down." "You shouldn't. She was Emma's mom. She deserves to be remembered." "Victoria says it's unhealthy, that I'm holding on to the past." "Victoria can go to hell." That got a real smile out of him. Small, but real. "You don't pull punches, do you?" he said. "Life's too short." "Fair enough." He wiped his hands on a rag. "You're good with Emma." "She's easy to be good with. She likes you, more than I expected." "Is that a problem?" "No, it's just—" He stopped, looked at her. "When this ends, it's going to hurt her, and I don't know how to prepare for that." Clara felt something twist in her chest. "Then maybe we don't think about the end yet. Maybe we just focus on now." "Now is a lie." "Now is what we've got." Adrian stared at her for a long moment. Then he went back to the tractor. But Clara saw it, the smallest crack in his armor, and she wondered if this whole thing was a mistake. The next 2 weeks fell into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Clara started cooking, real meals, not the reheated leftovers Adrian had been living on. She helped Emma with homework. She learned the layout of the property, the names of the workers, the patterns of the day. Adrian kept his distance. Polite, professional, but every now and then Clara would catch him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Then the phone calls started. The first one came on a Tuesday. Adrian answered in his office, and Clara heard his voice rise through the closed door. "What do you mean they're pulling the contract? We've had that agreement for 5 years." Silence. "This is Victoria. I know it is." He came out 20 minutes later, looking like he'd aged a decade. "What happened?" Clara asked. "One of my biggest suppliers just dropped me. No explanation, no warning." "Can they do that?" "They can do whatever they want, and Victoria can make it worth their while to screw me over." The second call came 2 days later. The bank. Suddenly, the line of credit Adrian had been using to expand operations was under review, frozen until further notice. "This is insane," Clara said. "She can't just destroy your business." "She's not destroying it. She's applying pressure, making me look unstable. If I react badly, she wins." So what do? We don't react. But the pressure kept building. A week later, Clara was in the kitchen when she heard shouting outside. She ran to the window and saw two men arguing with one of Adrian's workers. One of them was holding a camera. She found Adrian in the barn. There are reporters outside. He swore under his breath. Already? What do they want? A story. Victoria probably tipped them off. Poor billionaire marries mystery woman. They'll dig into your past, my past, everything. Clara felt her stomach drop. My past isn't interesting. It doesn't have to be. They'll make it interesting. He was right. By the end of the day, there were 3 news vans parked at the edge of the property. By the next morning, Clara's name was online. Her father's name. The fact that she'd been broke and desperate when she showed up at Adrian's door. The headlines were brutal. Billionaire's sudden marriage raises questions. Did Adrian Hale marry for love or desperation? Who is Clara Bennett? Clara read them on her phone and felt sick. Don't, Adrian said, taking the phone from her hands. Don't give them power. They're calling me a gold digger. They don't know you. They know enough. Emma came downstairs, saw the vans outside, and frowned. Why are they here? They're just curious, Adrian said. Ignore them. But Emma wasn't stupid. She saw the way Clara's hands shook, the way Adrian's jaw was locked tight. Is someone trying to hurt us? She asked. Adrian knelt down in front of her. No one's going to hurt you, I promise. But they're saying bad things about Clara. People say bad things when they don't understand. It doesn't make them true. Emma looked at Clara. I don't think you're bad. Clara's throat closed up. Thanks, kiddo. That night, Adrian doubled the security on the property, hired a firm to monitor the perimeter, told the workers not to talk to reporters. But it didn't stop the calls. Business partners suddenly had concerns. Investors wanted meetings. People who'd never questioned Adrian before were now asking for proof of his stability. It's working, Clara said one night. They were in the bedroom, their bedroom, both too wired to sleep. What is? Victoria's plan. She's turning everyone against you. Not everyone, just enough. So what do we do? Adrian sat on the edge of the bed, ran his hands through his hair. We hold the line. We don't give her ammunition. We act like everything is fine. Is it fine? No. Clara sat down next to him. Not close, but close enough. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For making this harder. If you'd married someone with money, someone with connections. I didn't want someone with money. I wanted someone I could trust. You don't know me. I know enough. They sat there in the quiet. The house settled around them. Somewhere down the hall, Emma's nightlight glowed soft. My wife used to say something, Adrian said after a while. She said the only way to survive bad things is to find one good thing every day and hold on to it. Did it work? Sometimes. What's your good thing today? He looked at her. Emma didn't cry when she saw the reporters. She was scared, but she didn't cry. That's something. Clara nodded. My good thing is that barn cat let me pet it this morning. First time it didn't run away. Adrian almost laughed. You're bribing it with food. Still counts. The tension broke, just a little, but enough. We're going to get through this, Clara said. You sound sure. I'm not, but I'm stubborn. I noticed. They went to bed on opposite sides. But somewhere in the middle of the night, Clara woke up and realized Adrian was still awake. She could hear him breathing, controlled, deliberate. Can't sleep? She asked quietly. No. Thinking about Victoria? Thinking about everything. Clara rolled over to face his side of the bed. In the dark, she could just make out his outline. Tell me something true, she said. What? Something you've never told anyone, something real. Silence. Then, I'm terrified I'm failing Emma. Clara's chest tightened. You're not. How do you know? Because she feels safe. Because she smiles. Because when she talks about you, her whole face lights up. That's not failure. It feels like it sometimes. Welcome to parenting, I guess. He huffed out a breath. Not quite a laugh. Your turn. My turn what? Tell me something true. Clara thought about it. I'm scared this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. and that when it's over, I won't know how to go back. Adrian didn't say anything for a long time. Then, so quiet she almost missed it. Yeah, me too. The next morning, Clara woke up alone. Adrian was already gone. She found a note on the kitchen counter. Had to meet with lawyers, back by dinner. Don't answer the door. She spent the day with Emma. They baked cookies, burned the first batch, saved the second. They played cards. They watched a movie about a girl who saved a dragon, and Emma fell asleep halfway through with her head on Clara's shoulder. Clara sat there, holding a kid who wasn't hers, in a house she didn't own, living a life that had an expiration date, and she let herself pretend, just for a minute, that it was real. Adrian came home after dark. He looked exhausted. How'd it go? Clara asked. They're filing a formal challenge. Victoria's claiming I'm mentally unfit to manage the estate. Says the marriage is proof I'm making reckless decisions. That's ridiculous. That's her case. What do? We prove her wrong. We show up. We play the part. We make everyone believe we're solid. How? Adrian looked at her. There's a charity gala next weekend. Big event. Everyone who's anyone will be there, including Victoria. You want us to go? I need us to go. Together. As a couple. Clara's stomach flipped. I don't have anything to wear to a gala. I'll take care of it. Adrian, Clara, if we don't show up, it looks like we're hiding. Like we're ashamed. We can't give her that. He was right. Clara hated that he was right. Okay, she said. We'll go. The dress arrived 3 days later. Clara opened the box in the bedroom and just stared. It was deep green, silk, simple but elegant. The kind of thing she'd never in her life have been able to afford. Try it on, Adrian said from the doorway. Clara jumped. I didn't hear you. Sorry. She held up the dress. This is too much. It's a gala. Everyone will be dressed up. I'm going to look like I'm trying too hard. You're going to look like you belong. Clara met his eyes. I don't belong. Then fake it. You've been faking everything else. It hit harder than he probably meant it to, but Clara just nodded and took the dress into the bathroom. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Hair down, dress that actually fit her frame. Shoes that didn't have scuffs. She looked like someone who had her life together. She looked like a lie. When she came out, Adrian was adjusting his tie. He stopped when he saw her. What? Clara asked. Nothing. You look good. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not. He stopped, shook his head. Never mind. We should go. The gala was held at a hotel 2 hours away. Clara spent the drive trying not to throw up. Relax, Adrian said. Easy for you to say. I hate these things too. You're a billionaire. You're supposed to love them. I'm a farmer who happens to have money. There's a difference. The hotel was massive. Chandeliers, marble floors, people in tuxedos and gowns that probably cost more than Clara's car. Adrian offered his arm. Clara took it. Just smile, he said. And stay close. They walked in together. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Clara felt every pair of eyes on her. Then Victoria appeared. She wore black. Looked like she'd been carved from ice. Her smile was sharp enough to cut. Adrian, how lovely to see you. Her gaze slid to Clara. And the new Mrs. Hale. You clean up well. Thanks, Clara said flatly. I have to admit, I didn't think you'd come. Most people in your position would hide. I'm not most people. Clearly. Victoria's smile widened. Enjoy the evening. I know I will. She walked away. Clara let out a breath. That woman is a nightmare, she muttered. Told you. They made their way through the room. Adrian introduced her to people, business partners, investors, old friends. Clara shook hands, smiled until her face hurt, pretended she understood half of what they were talking about. Then someone asked the question she'd been dreading. So how did you two meet? Clara froze. She'd practiced this, but her mind went blank. Adrian stepped in. Through her father. He was a good man. We reconnected after he passed, and he looked at Clara. Something shifted in his expression. It just made sense. The woman smiled. That's sweet. Clara forced herself to breathe. Yeah, it was pretty fast. The best things usually are. They moved on. Clara's hands were shaking. You okay? Adrian asked quietly. Fine. You don't look fine. I'm not used to lying to people's faces. You're not lying. You're just not telling them everything. There's a difference. Is there? Before he could answer, the lights dimmed. Someone announced dinner. People started moving toward tables. Adrian and Clara found their seats. Victoria was 3 tables over, watching them like a hawk. The meal was endless, course after course. Clara barely tasted any of it. Then the speeches started. Some politician, a CEO, a woman who ran a nonprofit, and then Victoria stood up. I'd like to say a few words, she said. Adrian went still. Victoria smiled at the room. As many of you know, my nephew Adrian recently got married. It was quite sudden, but I suppose love works that way sometimes. Clara felt Adrian's hand find hers under the table. He squeezed, once, hard. I just want to publicly wish them well, Victoria continued. Marriage is a partnership. It requires trust, stability, a strong foundation. Her eyes locked on Adrian. I hope they have all of that, for their sake. And for the sake of Adrian's daughter. The room clapped politely. Victoria sat down. Clara leaned toward Adrian. She just threatened us in front of everyone. I know. We have to do something. Not here, not now. The rest of the night passed in a blur. When it was finally over, they walked out into the cool night air. Clara felt like she could breathe again. That was hell, she said. Yeah. She's not going to stop. No. Clara turned to face him. So what do we do? Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he said the last thing she expected. We fight back. The drive home was silent except for the hum of tires on asphalt. Clara stared out the window, watching darkness roll past, her mind still stuck on Victoria's smile and the way it had felt like a knife pressed against her throat. What does fighting back look like? She asked finally. Adrian's hands tightened on the wheel. I don't know yet, but sitting back and taking it isn't working. She has more money than us, more connections, more everything. She also has more to hide. Clara turned to look at him. What do you mean? Victoria didn't build her fortune by playing fair. My grandfather knew that. It's why he set up the trust the way he did. He didn't want her controlling anything. So dig into her past? Maybe. Or we make her think we're weaker than we are. Let her get comfortable. Then pull the rug out. Clara thought about that. That's risky. Everything about this is risky. He wasn't wrong. They got home past midnight. The house was dark except for a single light in the kitchen. Megan was asleep on the couch, and Emma was in bed, curled up with her rabbit. Adrian paid Megan, sent her home, then stood in the kitchen looking like he'd run out of steam. You should sleep, Clara said. Can't. Try anyway. He looked at her. You did good tonight. I froze when that woman asked how we met. But you recovered. That's what matters. Clara leaned against the counter. I hate lying. I know, but I'm getting better at it. That's worse. Adrian crossed the room, stopped a few feet away, close enough that Clara could see the exhaustion in his eyes. For what it's worth, I don't think of this as a lie anymore. What do you think of it as? Survival. Clara held his gaze. Something passed between them. Not attraction, exactly, but something close. Understanding, maybe, or just the shared weight of carrying the same secret. I'm going to bed, she said. Yeah, me too. They walked upstairs together, changed in silence, got into their respective sides of the bed, and for the first time since this whole thing started, Clara fell asleep without feeling like she was drowning. The next week brought a new kind of hell. It started with the health inspector showing up unannounced at one of Adrian's processing facilities, found violations that hadn't existed the week before, shut the place down pending review. Then it was the tax audit, federal, comprehensive, the kind that cost tens of thousands in legal fees even if you had nothing to hide. Then a lawsuit from a former employee claiming wrongful termination and unsafe working conditions. The employee had quit 6 months ago. Suddenly, he had a lawyer and a story that sounded rehearsed. She's burying you, Clara said one night. They were in Adrian's office, surrounded by paperwork and half-empty coffee cups. She's trying. This isn't trying. This is succeeding. Adrian rubbed his eyes. I know. How much is this costing you? Too much. Can you afford it? He didn't answer right away. That told Clara everything. We need help, she said. From who? I don't know. A lawyer, a private investigator, someone who can find dirt on Victoria. I already have lawyers. They're expensive and useless. Then find better ones. Adrian leaned back in his chair. You sound like my wife. Clara froze. What? Sophie. She used to say the same thing. That I was too stubborn to ask for help. It was the first time he'd said her name out loud. Clara didn't know what to do with that. Was she right? Clara asked carefully. Usually. They sat there in the quiet. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside, wind rattled the windows. I'm sorry, Adrian said. For what? For dragging you into this. You didn't sign up for war. I signed up for whatever came with marrying you. This is part of it. That doesn't make it fair. Clara stood up, walked around the desk, sat on the edge of it so she was looking down at him. Fair doesn't exist. You know that. I know that. So stop apologizing and start fighting. Adrian looked up at her. You're tougher than you look. I've had practice. What happened to you? Before you came here? Clara hadn't talked about it, hadn't wanted to. But sitting there in the dim light of his office, she found herself wanting to tell him. I trusted the wrong person, she said. Gave him access to my bank account because he said he was helping me invest. Turned out he was helping himself. By the time I figured it out, everything was gone. Savings, security deposit, everything. Did you report him? Yeah, police said it was a civil matter. Lawyer said I didn't have enough evidence, so he walked, and I ended up broke. That's why you came here. That's why I came here. Adrian's jaw tightened. I'm sorry that happened to you. Don't be. I'm the one who trusted him. That's on me. It's on him for being a piece of shit. Clara almost smiled. That too. They stayed like that for a moment. Then Emma's voice drifted down the hall. Dad? Adrian was on his feet immediately. Yeah? I had a bad dream. Clara followed him to Emma's room. The little girl was sitting up in bed, clutching her rabbit, eyes wet. Adrian sat down next to her. What was it about? You left, and I couldn't find you, and the house was empty. I'm not going anywhere. You promise? I promise. Emma looked at Clara. What about you? Clara's throat closed. I'm not going anywhere either. Even if people are mean to you? Even then. Emma seemed to consider this. Then she scooted over and patted the bed. Can you stay? Just until I fall asleep? Adrian glanced at Clara. She nodded. They sat on either side of Emma. Adrian rubbed her back while Clara held her hand. Slowly, the little girl's breathing evened out. Her eyes closed. Her grip loosened. She's out, Clara whispered. Adrian stood carefully. They slipped out of the room, left the door cracked. In the hallway, Adrian stopped. Thank you. For what? For not running. A lot of people would have by now. Clara looked at him. I'm not a lot of people. No, you're not. Something shifted between them. Clara felt it, saw it in the way Adrian was looking at her. Not like a business arrangement, not like a stranger, like something else. She took a step back. We should get some sleep. Yeah, but neither of them moved. Adrian, don't, he said quietly. Don't say whatever you're about to say. You don't know what I was going to say. I do, and you're right, but not tonight. He walked away. Left Clara standing in the hallway, heart pounding, wondering what the hell was happening. The next morning brought worse news. Clara was making breakfast when Adrian came downstairs with his phone in his hand and murder in his eyes. What now? She asked. The bank called. They're calling in my loans, all of them, due in 30 days. Clara's stomach dropped. Can they do that? Technically, yes, if they think I'm a credit risk. And Victoria convinced them you are. Must have. Clara set down the spatula. How much are we talking? 12 million. The number hung in the air like smoke. Do you have it? Clara asked. Not liquid. I'd have to sell assets, properties, equipment. It would gut the operation. So we don't pay. Then They take everything, auction it off. Victoria probably already has buyers lined up. Clara felt rage build in her chest. This is insane. This is business. This is abuse. Adrian didn't argue. Emma came downstairs, saw their faces, and stopped. What's wrong? Nothing, sweetheart, Adrian said. Just work stuff. Emma wasn't buying it. Is it the mean lady? Adrian crouched down. Where did you hear about a mean lady? I heard you talking. You said Aunt Victoria was trying to take things from us. Adrian closed his eyes. You weren't supposed to hear that. Are we going to lose the farm? No. Promise? I promise. Emma hugged him, hard. Then she looked at Clara. You won't let the mean lady win, right? Clara felt something crack open inside her chest. No, we won't. After Emma left for school, Clara turned to Adrian. We need a plan. I'm working on it. Work faster. He looked at her. You have an idea? Maybe. You said Victoria has things to hide. What kind of things? Adrian thought about it. She's made questionable deals, bribed officials. My grandfather suspected she was involved in something illegal, but he could never prove it. So we prove it. How? Clara started pacing. We hire someone, a forensic accountant, a private investigator, someone who knows how to dig. That costs money. So does losing everything. Adrian ran his hand through his hair. Even if we find something, it takes time to build a case. We don't have time. Then we make her think she's won. We act like we're giving up. Let her get sloppy. And if she doesn't get sloppy, then we go down swinging. Adrian stared at her. You're serious, dead serious. He walked over to her, stood close enough that Clara had to tilt her head to look at him. If we do this, there's no going back. She'll come after us with everything she has. She's already doing that. It'll get worse. Let it. Something sparked in Adrian's eyes. Okay. Let's fight back. They spent the next 3 days putting together a strategy. Adrian reached out to a guy he knew, former FBI, now private sector, who specialized in financial crimes. The guy's name was Marcus, and he looked like someone who'd seen the worst of humanity and decided to profit from it. Marcus met them at the house, listened while Adrian laid out the situation, took notes in a worn notebook. Victoria Hale, Marcus said when Adrian finished. I've heard of her. Nasty piece of work. Can you find anything? Clara asked. Depends. You want dirt, or you want something that'll hold up in court? Both, Marcus smiled. I like you. This'll cost, though. My retainer is 50 grand. Adrian didn't blink. Done. And if I find something actionable, I get a bonus. 10% of whatever judgment you win. Fine. They shook on it. Marcus left with a stack of files and a promise to be in touch. $50,000, Clara said when he was gone. Just like that. It's an investment. It's a gamble. Same thing. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She got up around 2 in the morning, went downstairs, found Adrian already in the kitchen. Can't sleep either? She asked. Nope. She sat down across from him. What are you thinking about? Everything, nothing, whether this is going to work. It has to work. That's not how life works. Clara reached across the table, took his hand. Then we make it work. Adrian looked at their joined hands, didn't pull away. When did you get so optimistic? I'm not optimistic. I'm stubborn. There's a difference. He almost laughed. Yeah, I noticed. They sat like that for a while, holding hands in the dark, not talking, just being. Then Adrian said, I need to tell you something. Clara's pulse jumped. Okay. When Sophie died, I shut down, completely. I focused on Emma and the business and nothing else. I didn't date, didn't think about it, didn't want to. That's understandable. Let me finish. He squeezed her hand. Being around you, it's different. You make me feel like maybe I don't have to be shut down forever. Clara's breath caught. Adrian, I know this isn't real. I know we have an expiration date, but I need you to know that for me it stopped feeling fake a while ago. Clara didn't know what to say. Every word that came to mind felt wrong. You don't have to say anything, Adrian said. I just needed you to know. He let go of her hand, stood up, started to walk away. "Wait," Clara said. He stopped. She stood up, crossed the kitchen, stopped in front of him. "It stopped feeling fake for me too," she said quietly. Adrian's eyes searched hers. "Yeah?" "Yeah." He reached up, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. His hand lingered there, warm against her skin. "This is a bad idea," he said. "Probably." "We shouldn't—" Clara kissed him. It wasn't planned, wasn't thought through. It just happened. Adrian froze for half a second. Then he kissed her back. It was slow, careful, like they were both afraid of breaking something fragile. When they pulled apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "That complicates things." "I know. We should talk about it." "Later." "Clara." "Later," she said again. "Right now, I just want this." So he kissed her again. And for a few minutes, the world and Victoria and everything else disappeared. The call came 5 days later. Marcus's voice was clipped, excited. "I found something." Adrian put him on speaker. "What?" "Victoria's been running a shell company, funneling money offshore, tax evasion, fraud, bribery. Take your pick. I've got bank records, emails, the whole thing." Clara felt her pulse spike. "Is it enough?" "It's enough to bury her, but here's the thing, she's smart. She's got lawyers. If we come at her head on, she'll tie this up in court for years." "So what do we do?" Adrian asked. "We make her confess." "How?" Marcus was quiet for a beat. "You're not going to like it. Try me." "You let her think she's won. You meet with her. You wear a wire. Get her talking. She's arrogant. She'll brag. And when she does, we nail her." Clara looked at Adrian. "That's dangerous." "It's also our best shot," Marcus said. "You in or not?" Adrian didn't hesitate. "We're in." They set it up for the following week. Adrian called Victoria, told her he wanted to talk. Said he was considering her offer. Sell the business, step away, take a payout. Victoria sounded thrilled. The meeting was scheduled at her office. Neutral ground. Adrian would wear the wire. Clara would stay in the car with Marcus, listening. The days leading up to it felt like holding your breath underwater. Clara tried to stay busy, cooked, cleaned, helped Emma with a school project about family trees that made her want to cry. "Should I put you on here?" Emma asked, pointing to a blank branch. Clara's throat tightened. "If you want to." Emma wrote her name carefully. "Clara Bennett Hale." "There," Emma said. "Now you're part of the family." Clara had to leave the room, locked herself in the bathroom and cried until she couldn't breathe. When she came out, Adrian was waiting in the hallway. "You okay?" he asked. "No." He pulled her into a hug. Clara let herself lean into him, let herself pretend this was permanent. "We're going to win," he said against her hair. "You don't know that." "I believe it. That's enough." The day of the meeting, Clara woke up with her stomach in knots. Adrian was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. "Second thoughts?" Clara asked. "Third and fourth thoughts." "We can call it off." "No, we can't." He looked at her. "If this goes wrong, it won't. If it does, I need you to take Emma and leave. Get somewhere safe. Don't come back." Clara sat up. "I'm not leaving you." "Clara, no, we're in this together." That was the deal. Adrian's jaw worked. Then he nodded. They got dressed. Marcus arrived with the equipment, a tiny microphone that clipped to Adrian's shirt, invisible under his jacket. "Test," Marcus said. Adrian spoke. His voice came through the receiver clear as day. "Good," Marcus said. "Remember, get her talking. Let her think she's won. People love to gloat." They drove to Victoria's office, a glass tower downtown, sterile and cold. Clara and Marcus parked across the street. Adrian got out, looked back once. Clara gave him a nod, then he walked inside. Clara watched the building like it might explode. Her hands were shaking. "Breathe," Marcus said. "He's got this." The receiver crackled. Adrian's voice. "I'm in the elevator." Then silence. Then, "I'm outside her office." A door opened. Victoria's voice. "Adrian, right on time." "Victoria." "Please sit," Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? I'm fine. Suit yourself. A pause, the sound of a chair. So, you said you wanted to talk. I'm ready to sell. Silence. Then Victoria laughed. I have to say, I didn't expect you to fold this quickly. I'm not folding. I'm being practical. You've made it impossible to operate. The loans, the lawsuits, the inspections, it's too much. Business is business, Adrian. This isn't business. This is personal. Perhaps. But you brought it on yourself. Marrying that girl. Playing house. Did you really think I'd let you embarrass this family? Claire's hands curled into fists. Claire has nothing to do with this, Adrian said. She has everything to do with it. She's proof you're not thinking clearly. A poor nobody shows up at your door, and 3 days later you're married? It's pathetic. Careful, Victoria. Or what? You'll divorce her? Please. We both know that marriage is a sham. You needed it to look stable. Instead, you look desperate. Adrian's voice went cold. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I know you're broke, Adrian. I know you can't pay those loans. I know you're one bad week away from losing everything your grandfather built. And you're enjoying it. Immensely. Victoria's voice dripped satisfaction. I've waited years for this. Years of watching you play the grieving widower, the devoted father. It was nauseating. You were never strong enough to run this empire. Your grandfather knew that. Why do you think he made me the failsafe? He made you the failsafe because he didn't trust you to run things yourself. Victoria's voice sharpened. Watch yourself. Or what? You'll destroy me? You're already doing that. And I'll keep doing it until you sign those papers and walk away. And if I don't? Then I'll take Emma. Clara stopped breathing. Adrian's voice went deadly quiet. What did you just say? You heard me. I have lawyers ready to file for custody. A single father, unstable, financially ruined, married to a stranger. Any judge would side with me. I'll take her, Adrian, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Claire's vision blurred with rage. Adrian's voice was shaking. You wouldn't. Try me. There was a long silence. Then Adrian said, You just made a mistake. What? Threatening a child. Admitting to financial manipulation. Confessing to a coordinated effort to destroy my business. All on record. Another pause. Then Victoria's voice, ice cold. You're wearing a wire. Yeah, I am. You son of a... The sound of a scuffle. Something crashed. Clara grabbed Marcus's arm. We have to go in, she said. Wait. Now! They ran across the street, into the building, up the elevator, down the hall. The office door was open. Inside, Adrian and Victoria were standing on opposite sides of the desk. Victoria's face was white with fury. You think this changes anything? She spat. I have lawyers, money, power. This recording won't hold up in court. Maybe not, Adrian said, but it'll destroy your reputation, and that's worth something. Clara stepped into the room. Victoria's eyes snapped to her. You, Victoria said, this was your idea, wasn't it? Does it matter? Clara asked. You stupid little... Careful, Adrian said. There are witnesses. Victoria looked between them. Then she smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Clara had ever seen. You have no idea what you've done, Victoria said softly. No idea what's coming. Then she walked out. Clara turned to Adrian. Did we get it? Marcus checked the recorder, nodded. Every word. Adrian sat down heavily, looked like he might throw up. Clara went to him, put her hand on his shoulder. It's over. No, he said. It's not. He was right. 3 days later, the barn burned. Clara smelled smoke before she saw flames. She was in the kitchen making sandwiches for Emma's lunch when the acrid scent hit her nose. For a second, she thought someone was burning trash. Then she looked out the window and saw orange light dancing against the night sky. Adrian! Her voice came out strangled. He was upstairs putting Emma to bed. Clara heard his footsteps pound down the stairs. What? He saw the window, saw the glow. His face went white. The main barn. He was out the door before Clara could move. She ran after him, her heart hammering against her ribs. The barn was fully engulfed. Flames climbed the walls like living things, hungry and violent. Heat rolled off in waves that made Clara's eyes water. Workers were already there with hoses, but it was useless. The fire was too big, too fast. Adrian stood frozen, watching his livelihood burn. "Get back!" one of the workers shouted. "The fuel tanks are in there." Adrian didn't move. Clara grabbed his arm, pulled hard. "Adrian, we need to move." He let her drag him backward just as the first explosion hit. The force knocked them both to the ground. Clara's ears rang. Debris rained down around them. When she looked up, half the barn was gone, just twisted metal in flame. Adrian was already on his feet, phone out, calling 911. His voice was steady, but Clara could see his hands shaking. The fire trucks arrived 20 minutes later. By then, there was nothing left to save. They just contained the spread, kept it from reaching the other buildings. Clara stood next to Adrian and watched everything he'd built turn to ash. When the fire chief came over, his face was grim. "Anyone hurt?" "No," Adrian said. His voice sounded dead. "That's something. You got insurance on this?" "Yeah." "Good. Because this wasn't an accident." Clara's stomach dropped. "What?" The chief pointed to what was left of the barn's entrance. "Accelerant. I can smell it from here. Someone set this deliberately." Adrian's jaw clenched so hard Clara thought his teeth might crack. "You're sure?" "I've been doing this 23 years. I'm sure." "You got any enemies?" Adrian let out a sound that might have been a laugh if it wasn't so broken. "Yeah, I've got enemies." The chief nodded. "Police will want to talk to you. Don't leave town." He walked away. Clara turned to Adrian. "Victoria," she said, "we don't know that." "Who else would it be?" Adrian didn't answer. He was staring at the smoking wreckage like if he looked hard enough he could put it back together. "How much did you lose?" Clara asked quietly. "Equipment, vehicles, feed? Probably $3 million, give or take." "Insurance will cover it." "Insurance will cover the building, not the lost time. Not the contracts I won't be able to fulfill because I don't have the capacity. Not the reputation hit when word gets out I can't deliver." Clara felt sick. "She's trying to ruin you." "She's succeeding," a voice called out from the house. "Dad?" They both turned. Emma was standing on the porch in her pajamas, rabbit clutched to her chest, eyes wide. Adrian was across the yard in seconds. He scooped her up. "You're supposed to be asleep." "I heard the sirens. What happened?" "There was a fire, but it's out now. Everything's okay." Emma looked over his shoulder at the destroyed barn. "That doesn't look okay." "It will be." "Promise?" Adrian's face crumpled for just a second. Then he pulled himself together. "I promise." He carried her inside. Clara followed, her mind already racing. After Emma was back in bed, after Adrian sat with her until she fell asleep, he came back downstairs and found Clara pacing the kitchen. "We need to call Marcus," she said. "And tell him what? That Victoria burned down my barn? We don't have proof. We have the recording, which proves fraud and manipulation, not arson. So we get proof." Adrian slumped into a chair. "How? She's too smart to leave a trail. Whoever she hired to do this is probably halfway to Canada by now." Clara stopped pacing, looked at him. "When Sophie died, did you give up?" Adrian's head snapped up. "What? Did you fall apart? Did you quit?" "That's different." "It's not. You had a daughter who needed you, a business that would have collapsed without you. You could have given up, but you didn't." "I didn't have a choice." You always have a choice." Clara sat down across from him. "Victoria is betting you'll break, that this will be the thing that finally makes you walk away. Don't give her what she wants." Adrian stared at her. "You don't know what you're asking." "I'm asking you to fight, like you've been fighting your whole life." "I'm tired, Clara." "I know, but you don't get to be tired yet. Not when Emma's upstairs scared out of her mind. Not when that woman thinks she can burn down your life and get away with it." Something shifted in Adrian's expression. The defeat didn't disappear, but it made room for something harder. Angrier. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay? We fight." They called Marcus first thing in the morning. He arrived by noon with a laptop and a portable printer. "I heard about the barn," he said. "Victoria?" "Can't prove it," Adrian said, "but yeah, Marcus sat up at the dining room table. Here's what I've got. Bank records showing Victoria's Shell Company transferred $200,000 to an offshore account 3 days before your barn burned. Could be a coincidence, probably isn't. Can we trace the account? Claire asked. I'm trying, but she's good at hiding her tracks. What about the recording? Adrian asked. Can we use it? We can, but here's the thing. She'll claim it was illegally obtained. Say you entrapped her. Her lawyers will tear it apart. So what's the point? Marcus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. The point is leverage. We threatened to release it publicly. Let the court of public opinion decide. Even if it doesn't hold up legally, it'll destroy her reputation. Clara leaned forward. And then what? Then we offer her a deal. She backs off, admits to the financial crimes, pays restitution. In exchange, we don't release the recording and we don't press charges for the arson. She'll never go for that, Adrian said. She will if she thinks she's out of options. She's not out of options. She has money, power, connections. Marcus closed his laptop. Yeah, but you have something she doesn't. What's that? You have nothing left to lose. The words hung in the air. Adrian looked at Clara. She looked back. He's right, she said. This could backfire. Badly. Or it could work. Adrian ran his hand through his hair, looked older than he had a month ago, worn down, but still standing. Do it, he said. Marcus drafted the offer that afternoon. It was simple, direct, laid out everything they had on Victoria, and gave her 72 hours to respond. And if she doesn't, Clara asked, then we go to the press, the police, anyone who'll listen. They sent it via her lawyer. Then they waited. The response came faster than expected. Victoria wanted to meet, in person. No lawyers, just the three of them. It's a trap, Clara said immediately. Probably, Adrian agreed. So we don't go. If we don't go, she'll think we're scared. We should be scared. Adrian looked at her. Are you? Clara thought about it. About the barn. About Emma's face when she saw the flames. About Victoria's smile when she threatened to take everything. Yeah, Clara said. I'm terrified, but I'm going anyway. They met at a restaurant. Public. Witnesses. Safe, theoretically. Victoria was already there when they arrived. She sat in a corner booth, perfectly composed, like she was waiting for brunch instead of a confrontation. Adrian, Clara. She gestured to the seats across from her. Please. They sat. Clara's pulse was racing, but she kept her face neutral. I received your offer, Victoria said. It's insulting. It's fair, Adrian said. You threatened to destroy my reputation over a business dispute. That's not fair. That's blackmail. You burned down my barn. I have no idea what you're talking about. Right. Just like you have no idea about the shell companies, the offshore accounts, the bribes. Victoria's smile didn't waver. Those are serious accusations. I hope you have proof. We have proof, Clara said. Victoria's eyes slid to her. Do you? Or do you have a recording obtained through deception that any competent lawyer will have thrown out in 5 minutes? Guess we'll find out, Clara said. Victoria leaned back. You're both very brave or very stupid. I haven't decided which. Neither, Adrian said. We're just done playing your games. This isn't a game, Adrian. This is your life, your daughter's life. You really want to drag this into the public? Let reporters dig into every corner of your world? Emma's world? Clara felt her blood turn to ice. Leave Emma out of this. She's already in it. The moment Adrian decided to fight me, he put her in the crosshairs. Adrian's hand curled into a fist on the table. You threaten my daughter again, and recording or not, You'll what? Victoria's voice was silk over steel. Hit me? That would look wonderful in court. Violent, unstable father attacks elderly aunt. I'd have Emma in my custody before the bruise even formed. Clara grabbed Adrian's arm before he could move. Don't, that's what she wants. Victoria smiled. Smart girl. Maybe you should be making the decisions, Clara. You're clearly more level-headed than my nephew. What do you want? Clara asked. I want Adrian to stop this foolishness, sign over the business, take his payout, disappear. And if he doesn't, then I'll make sure he loses everything. The business, the house, his daughter, and you. Victoria's eyes glittered. I've already started digging into your past, Clara. That man who stole from you, turns out he's willing to talk, for the right price. Clara's stomach dropped. There's nothing to tell. Isn't there? He says you were in on it, that you helped him steal from other people, that when it fell apart, you played the victim. That's a lie. Is it? Because he has emails, text messages, evidence that says otherwise. Fabricated evidence. Maybe. But once the story is out there, the damage is done. People will always wonder, was she a victim? Or was she a con artist who married a billionaire when her first scheme fell apart? Clara felt like she couldn't breathe. You're making this up. Am I? Victoria pulled out her phone, slid it across the table. Read. Clara looked at the screen, saw messages that looked like they came from her phone, conversations about moving money, hiding transactions, things she'd never said, never written, but they looked real. You forged these, Clara said. Prove it. Adrian grabbed the phone. Read the messages. His face went pale. This is bullshit, he said. Is it? Or is your new wife not who she says she is? Clara didn't do this. How do you know? You married her after 3 days. You barely know her. Adrian's jaw clenched. I know enough. Do you? Because I've had investigators watching her since the day she showed up. I know about the debts, the eviction, the restraining order her landlord filed. I know she's desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. Clara felt the room spin. There was no restraining order. I left because I couldn't pay rent. Your word against documented evidence. Why are you doing this? Clara asked. Her voice shook. Victoria leaned forward. Because I can. Because Adrian needs to learn that actions have consequences. And because you, my dear, are collateral damage. Clara stood up. We're done here. Sit down. No. Victoria's expression hardened. If you walk out that door, I release everything. The recording goes public. The fabricated evidence about Clara goes public. I'll destroy both of you. Adrian stood too. Then destroy us, because we're not backing down. They walked out. Clara's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold her phone. Outside, Adrian stopped, turned to her. I'm sorry. For what? For dragging you into this. She's going to ruin you. Let her try. Clara, no, I meant what I said in there. We're not backing down. Even if it costs you everything? Clara looked at him. At this man who'd let her in when she had nowhere else to go. Who'd given her a home, a family, a reason to fight. Especially then, she said. They drove home in silence. When they pulled into the driveway, every light in the house was off. That's weird, Adrian said. I left the porch light on. Something cold crawled up Clara's spine. Where's Emma? She's with Megan. They were going to bake cookies. Call them. Adrian pulled out his phone, dialed. It rang, and rang, and rang. No answer. He tried again, same result. Clara's chest tightened. Try the house phone. He did. It went straight to voicemail. Something's wrong, Clara said. They ran to the door. It was unlocked. Adrian pushed inside. The house was dark, silent. Emma! Adrian's voice echoed. Megan? Nothing. They searched every room, the kitchen, the living room, upstairs. Emma's room was empty. Her bed was made. Her rabbit was gone. Adrian's face had gone white. Where are they? Clara saw it then. A piece of paper on the kitchen counter. She picked it up. The handwriting was neat, precise. You should have taken the deal. Clara's hands went numb. Adrian? He took the paper, read it. The color drained from his face. She took her, he said. His voice was barely audible. Victoria took Emma. Clara grabbed her phone, dialed 911. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped it. 911, what's your emergency? Someone took my stepdaughter. She's 8 years old. Her name is Emma Hale. The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional. When did you last see her? 2 hours ago. She was with a babysitter. They're both gone. Do you know who might have taken her? Clara looked at Adrian. He was holding the note like it might disappear if he let go. Yes, Clara said. We know exactly who took her. The police arrived within 15 minutes. 2 officers. They took statements, asked questions, looked at the note. This is a custody dispute? one of them asked. No, Adrian said. This is kidnapping. The note suggests otherwise. I don't care what the note suggests. My daughter is gone. I want her found. Now. The officer exchanged a look with his partner. We'll do everything we can, but if this is a family matter, it's not a family matter. It's a crime. Sir, if you could calm down, my daughter is missing. Don't tell me to calm down. Clara put her hand on Adrian's arm. Let them do their job. Adrian looked like he wanted to put his fist through the wall, but he stepped back. The officers left, promised to follow up, said they'd issue an alert. It felt like nothing. Clara and Adrian stood in the empty kitchen. The house had never felt bigger or colder. We need to call Marcus, Clara said. Already did. He's on his way. What about Victoria? We could confront her. And say what? She'll deny everything. Say Emma's with her voluntarily, that we're unfit parents. So we wait? We wait. Clara couldn't stand still. She paced, made coffee no one would drink, checked her phone every 30 seconds. Adrian sat at the table, staring at nothing. This is my fault, he said after a while. Don't. I pushed too hard. I should have just given her what she wanted. You did what was right. Right doesn't matter if Emma's gone. Clara knelt in front of him, took his face in her hands, made him look at her. We're going to get her back, she said. You don't know that. I know Victoria wants leverage. She won't hurt Emma. She needs her as a bargaining chip. What if you're wrong? I'm not wrong. Adrian's eyes were wet. I can't lose her, Clara. I can't lose another person I love. Clara's throat closed. You won't. He pulled her close, held on like she was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. Maybe she was. Marcus arrived an hour later. He had news. I tracked Victoria's car. She's at a property she owns upstate, about 2 hours from here. Is Emma there? Adrian asked. I don't know, but it's our best lead. Then let's go. Wait, Marcus said. If we go in without a plan, she could run, or worse. What do you suggest? We call her, offer a trade. The recording for Emma. Clara shook her head. She won't go for that. She already has leverage. Why would she trade? Because we threatened to release it anyway. Tell her we've made copies, that if Emma isn't returned safe in the next hour, it goes public. Adrian stood up. Make the call. Marcus dialed. Put it on speaker. Victoria answered on the second ring. Marcus, I was wondering when you'd call. Where's Emma? Adrian demanded. Safe. For now. If you hurt her, relax, Adrian. She's having cookies and watching cartoons. She doesn't even know she's been kidnapped. Then let her go. In exchange for what? The recording. All copies. We walk away. You walk away. Everyone wins. Victoria laughed. You must think I'm stupid. The moment Emma's back, you'll go to the police anyway. We won't, Clara said. We just want her home. And I'm supposed to trust you? You don't have a choice. We're releasing the recording in 1 hour. Every news outlet, every social media platform. Your name will be destroyed. Silence. Then Victoria said, You're bluffing. Try us, Adrian said. More silence. Clara could hear her own heartbeat. Fine, Victoria said finally. Bring the recording to my property, alone. No police, no Marcus, just you and Clara. When I verify the files are deleted, you get Emma. How do we know you'll keep your word? You don't, but it's the only offer you're getting. She hung up. Marcus looked at them. This is a bad idea. Noted, Adrian said, but we're doing it anyway. They drove north in the dark. Clara's phone was in her lap, recording everything. Insurance, she told herself. Evidence if things went wrong. The property was isolated, a cabin surrounded by woods. Victoria's car was parked outside. Adrian killed the engine. Looked at Clara. You don't have to come in. Yes, I do. If something happens, it won't. They got out, walked to the door. Adrian knocked. Victoria opened it. She looked calm, controlled, like she'd already won. The recording? She said. Adrian held up a thumb drive. Everything's on here. Delete it in front of me. Where's Emma? Victoria stepped aside. Emma was sitting on a couch. She looked up when she saw them. Dad! She ran over. Adrian caught her, held her so tight Clara thought he might break. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine. Aunt Victoria said we were going on an adventure." "Yeah, baby, an adventure." Clara looked at Victoria. "We kept our end. Now keep yours." Victoria held out her hand. "The drive." Adrian hesitated, then handed it over. Victoria plugged it into a laptop, checked the files, deleted them. Then she pulled out a hammer and smashed the drive to pieces. "There," she said. "Done." "We're leaving," Adrian said. "Not yet." Victoria pulled out her phone. "I want to make sure you don't have any other copies." "We don't." "Prove it. Let me check your phones." Clara's heart stopped. Her phone was recording. If Victoria saw that— "No," Clara said. "Then we're not done here." Adrian's hand tightened on Emma's shoulder. "Clara, give her the phone." Clara looked at him, saw the desperation in his eyes. He'd give up everything to keep Emma safe. She couldn't blame him, but she also couldn't do it. "No," she said again. "You want my phone, come take it." Victoria's expression hardened. "You really want to do this? You kidnapped a child. You threatened us. You burned down a barn. I'm done playing games." Victoria took a step forward. Adrian moved between them. "Enough," he said. "We gave you what you wanted. We're leaving." "Not with that phone. Try and stop us." Victoria's face twisted with rage. Then she smiled. "Fine. Leave. But know this, I will destroy you. Both of you. You'll never work again. Never find peace. I'll make sure of it." "Get in line," Clara said. They walked out, got in the car, drove away. No one spoke until they were back on the highway. Then Adrian pulled over. "Is it still recording?" he asked. Clara checked. "Yeah." "Good. Because we just got her confession." Emma looked between them. "What's happening?" Adrian turned around, kissed her forehead. "Nothing, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay now." And for the first time in weeks, Clara believed him. The recording changed everything. Marcus listened to it 3 times, then looked up with something like awe on his face. This is it. Kidnapping, coercion, admission of arson. She buried herself. They were back at the house. Emma was asleep upstairs, finally, after Adrian had sat with her for 2 hours, promising she was safe. Clara made coffee that nobody drank and watched the sun come up through the kitchen window. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we go to the police. The real police, not the locals. FBI handles kidnapping across state lines." Adrian rubbed his face. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He probably hadn't. "How long will it take? To arrest her? Maybe a day. To build a case? Couple weeks? To actually convict her?" Marcus shrugged. "Could be months, years." "Years," Adrian repeated flatly. "White-collar crime moves slow. She'll have good lawyers. They'll drag it out. But she'll go to prison eventually? If we play this right." "Yeah, she'll go to prison." Clara sat down next to Adrian, took his hand. He squeezed back without looking at her. "Do it," he said. Marcus made the calls. By noon, federal agents were at the house taking statements. They were thorough, professional. They asked questions Clara didn't want to answer and made her relive the worst night of her life in precise detail. One of them, a woman named Agent Torres, sat across from Clara at the kitchen table. "Walk me through the moment you realized Emma was missing." Clara did. Every second. Every terrible realization. "And you're sure Victoria Hale orchestrated this?" The note was in her handwriting. "We'll need a sample to confirm." "You'll get it." Torres made notes. "Mrs. Hale, I have to ask, were you aware of the financial crimes Mr. Hale alleges his aunt committed?" "Not at first." "But you became aware?" "Yes." "And you didn't report it?" Clara felt her stomach tighten. "We were gathering evidence. That's not your job. That's law enforcement's job. We didn't think anyone would believe us." Torres looked at her. "And now? Now we have proof." The agent didn't look convinced, but she moved on. By the time they finished, Clara felt wrung out, empty. Adrian's interview took longer. When he finally came out, he looked worse than when he went in. "They want the financial records," he said. "Everything Marcus found. Everything Victoria did." "Did you give it to them?" "Yeah, all of it." What did they say? That it's a strong case, but Victoria will fight. She'll claim we entrapped her, that the recording was illegal, that we fabricated evidence. Can she win? Adrian sat down heavily. I don't know. The arrest happened 2 days later. Clara was folding laundry when Adrian came into the bedroom with his phone in his hand and something like relief on his face. They got her, he said. Clara's hand stilled. What? FBI arrested Victoria an hour ago. Kidnapping, fraud, conspiracy, a bunch of other charges I can't even pronounce. Clara sat down on the bed. Is it over? No, but it's something. They turned on the news. There it was. Victoria Hale being walked out of her office in handcuffs. She looked smaller on camera, less terrifying. Just an old woman who'd gambled everything and lost. Emma came into the room. Is that Aunt Victoria? Yeah, baby, Adrian said. Why is she in handcuffs? Because she did some bad things, and now she has to answer for them. Emma watched for a moment. Then she said, Good. Clara looked at her. Good. She was mean, and she took me away from you. That's bad. Adrian pulled her close. Yeah, it was. Are we safe now? Adrian met Clara's eyes over Emma's head. Yeah, we're safe. Emma seemed satisfied with that. She went back to her room. Adrian and Clara stood there watching the news loop the same footage over and over. I can't believe it's real, Clara said. Me neither. What happens to the business? I don't know. The loans are still due. The barn's still gone. But at least Victoria can't touch it anymore. That's something. Yeah. Adrian turned off the TV. It's something. The trial didn't happen for 8 months. In that time, Clara watched Adrian rebuild. Not just the barn, though he did that too, bigger and better, but himself. He smiled more, laughed occasionally, started sleeping through the night. Emma thrived. She made friends at school, stopped having nightmares, started calling Clara Mom, in that casual way kids do when they've decided you're part of the family. And Clara fell in love. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just slowly, in the quiet moments. When Adrian made her coffee without asking, when he fixed the leaky faucet she'd mentioned once in passing, when he looked at her across the dinner table like she was the best thing that had ever happened to him. She didn't tell him, couldn't figure out how. They were still technically married for show, still had an expiration date looming, still hadn't talked about what happened after Victoria was gone. But sometimes, late at night, when they were both pretending to sleep, Clara would feel Adrian's hand find hers in the dark, and she'd hold on tight. The trial was a circus. Reporters everywhere, cameras, people who wanted to know every detail of Clara's life, Adrian's life, Emma's life. They camped outside the courthouse, shouted questions nobody wanted to answer. Victoria's lawyers were good. They argued entrapment, illegal recording, claimed Adrian had manipulated a vulnerable woman into confessing to crimes she didn't commit, but the evidence was stronger. Bank records, shell companies, emails Victoria had been stupid enough not to delete, and the recording, Clara's recording of Victoria admitting to kidnapping, to arson, to everything. Clara testified on day 4. She wore a navy dress Adrian had bought her and heels that hurt her feet, walked to the stand with her head up. Victoria's lawyer was a man in his 60s with a voice like gravel. Mrs. Hale, isn't it true you married Adrian Hale for his money? No? You were destitute when you met him, homeless, desperate. I needed help. That's not the same as being a gold digger. And yet 3 days after meeting him, you were married. Quite convenient. Clara looked at the jury. It wasn't convenient. It was complicated. But it wasn't about money. Then what was it about? Survival. His and mine. The lawyer smiled like he'd won something. So you admit it was a marriage of convenience. I admit it started that way. But that's not how it ended. How did it end, Mrs. Hale? Clara found Adrian in the gallery. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. It didn't end, she said quietly. It became real. The lawyer tried to twist her words, make her sound like a liar. But Clara held her ground. When she stepped down, her hands were shaking, but she'd told the truth. Adrian testified next. He was calm, methodical, walked the jury through every crime Victoria had committed, every threat, every manipulation. When Victoria's lawyer asked if he'd set his aunt up, Adrian didn't flinch. I gave her every chance to walk away, he said. She chose to escalate. That's on her. You wanted her out of your life. I wanted her to stop trying to destroy it. And you used your marriage to Mrs. Hale to do that. I used my marriage to protect my daughter. There's a difference. The trial lasted 3 weeks. When it finally went to the jury, Clara thought she might throw up from the waiting. They came back in 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Victoria's face went white, then red. She started to stand to say something, but her lawyers pulled her back down. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks out. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Adrian put his arm around Clara and pushed through. They didn't answer questions, didn't stop. They just got in the car and drove home. Emma was waiting with Megan. She took one look at their faces and knew. Did you win? She asked. Yeah, baby, Adrian said. We won. Emma threw her arms around him. I knew you would. That night, after Emma was in bed, Clara and Adrian sat on the porch. It was warm for late September. The stars were out. What happens now? Clara asked. Victoria goes to prison. I get my business back. Life goes on. And us? Adrian was quiet for a long time. What do you want to happen? Clara's heart was pounding. I don't know. We never talked about it. We should. Yeah. More silence. Then Adrian said, when we first got married, I told you this would last a year, maybe 2, that we'd get a quiet divorce when it was over. I remember. I don't want that anymore. Clara turned to look at him. What? I don't want to divorce you. I don't want this to end. Adrian, let me finish. He took her hand. I know we started this for the wrong reasons, but somewhere along the way it stopped being fake. You became part of my life, part of Emma's life, part of everything. And I don't want to lose that. Clara felt tears sting her eyes. You won't. You don't know that. We have an agreement, an expiration date. So we changed the agreement. Just like that? Just like that. Adrian's thumb traced circles on her palm. I'm not easy to live with. I work too much. I'm stubborn. I don't talk about my feelings. I noticed. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with you. All of you. He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. I love you. I should have said it weeks ago. But I was scared. Of what? That you'd say it back just because you felt obligated. That this would still feel like playing a role. Clara cupped his face, made him look at her. I love you because you let me in when I had nowhere to go. Because you're a good father. Because you make terrible coffee and fix things I don't ask you to fix. Because when I look at you, I see home. Adrian's eyes were wet. Yeah? Yeah. He kissed her, not carefully, not tentatively, like he meant it. When they pulled apart, Clara was breathless. So, Adrian said, we're doing this. We're doing this. For real this time? For real. He laughed. It sounded relieved. Emma's going to lose her mind. In a good way. In the best way. They told her the next morning. Emma was eating cereal when Adrian said, Clara and I need to talk to you about something. Emma looked up. Okay. You know how Clara and I got married kind of fast? Yeah. Well, we did it because we needed to protect our family, but it wasn't a normal marriage. Emma frowned. What does that mean? Clara jumped in. It means we didn't get married because we loved each other. We got married because we needed help. Oh. But things changed, Adrian continued. We fell in love, and now we want to stay married. For real, if that's okay with you. Emma set down her spoon, looked between them. So you're not going to divorce? No. And Clara's going to stay? If she wants to. Emma looked at Clara. Do you want to? Clara's throat tightened. More than anything, Emma smiled. Good, because I already did my family tree project and you're on it. It would be weird if you left. Clara laughed through tears. Can't have that. Emma went back to her cereal like they'd just discussed the weather. But Clara saw the relief in her shoulders, the way she sat a little straighter. Kids knew. They always knew. Victoria's sentencing happened on a Tuesday. The judge gave her 12 years, federal prison, no parole. She'd be almost 70 when she got out. If she got out. Adrian didn't go to the sentencing, sent Marcus instead, said he didn't need to see her face again. Clara understood. When Marcus called with the news, Adrian just nodded. Good. That's it? Clara asked. That's it. She's gone. We can move on. Just like that? Just like that. But Clara knew it wasn't that simple. Trauma didn't disappear because someone went to prison. Fear didn't evaporate because the threat was gone. It took time. Adrian had nightmares for months. Would wake up gasping, convinced Emma was gone. Clara would hold him until he remembered where he was, who he was. Emma started therapy, worked through the kidnapping with a woman who specialized in childhood trauma. She drew pictures, told stories, slowly started to heal. And Clara learned what it meant to be part of a family, real family. Not the kind you're born into, but the kind you choose, the kind that chooses you back. She learned that love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It was about showing up, making coffee, folding laundry, sitting with someone in the dark when they couldn't sleep. It was about building something together, brick by brick, day by day. 6 months after the trial, Adrian proposed. Not with a ring, they were already married, but with a question. They were in bed. Clara was reading. Adrian was pretending to read, but mostly just watching her. Marry me, he said. Clara looked up. We're already married. I know, but we never had a wedding, never said vows. I want to do it right. You want a wedding? I want to stand in front of people and tell them I choose you, that this isn't a legal arrangement or a business deal. It's real. Clara set down her book. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's get married. Again. They did it small, just close friends. Marcus, Rosie from the cafe, Emma's teacher, a few of Adrian's workers who'd become family over the years. They held it on the farm, under the sky. In front of the barn Adrian had rebuilt, Emma was the flower girl. She took the job very seriously, practiced walking slow for days. Clara wore white, not a big dress, just something simple that made her feel like herself. Adrian wore a suit, looked uncomfortable and handsome at the same time. The officiant was a friend of Adrian's from college. He kept it short. When it came time for vows, Adrian went first. I'm not good at this, he said. His hands were shaking. I'm better with numbers than words, but I need you to know. He stopped, took a breath. When you showed up at my door, I was surviving, not living, just getting through. You changed that. You made me remember what it felt like to want something other than safety. You gave me hope, and I love you for that. I'll love you for the rest of my life. Clara was crying before he finished. She wiped her eyes, tried to pull herself together. I didn't prepare anything, she said. I probably should have, but I didn't know what to say. Because how do you put into words what it feels like to be seen, to be valued, to be chosen? She looked at Adrian. You saved me. Not because you had to, because you wanted to. And every day since, you've shown me that I matter. That's the greatest gift anyone's ever given me. So I promise to do the same for you, to choose you, every day, for as long as we both live. Emma started crying, which made Rosie cry, which made everyone cry. They exchanged rings, new ones, not the plain bands they'd gotten at the courthouse. These had inscriptions. Adrian said, You are home. Clara said, You are enough. When the officiant said they could kiss, Adrian pulled Clara close and kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. Emma cheered, everyone else clapped, and Clara thought, this is what happiness feels like. Not perfect, not without scars, but real. The business grew. Adrian expanded operations, hired more people, turned the farm into something that would last generations. Clara started working too. Not at the farm. She wanted something separate, something hers. She went back to school, got a degree in social work, started helping people who'd been where she'd been, broke, desperate, out of options. She was good at it, because she understood, because she'd lived it. Emma grew up, got tall, started talking about college, about the future. She never forgot what Victoria had done, but she didn't let it define her. Some scars you carry, Some scars you learn from. On Emma's 16th birthday, she asked Clara a question. Do you ever regret it, coming here? They were baking a cake. Chocolate. Emma's favorite. Clara thought about it. No? Not even the hard parts? Especially not the hard parts. They made me who I am. Victoria almost destroyed everything. She tried, but she failed. Because you fought back. Because we fought back. All of us. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'm glad Dad let you in. Clara's throat tightened. Me too. I used to be scared all the time. After Mom died, I thought Dad would leave too, that I'd end up alone. You're not alone. I know, because of you. Clara hugged her. You're stuck with me, kid. Good. That night, Clara told Adrian what Emma had said. They were on the porch again, same spot where he'd told her he loved her, where they'd decided to make this real. She's a good kid, Adrian said. She's your kid. Of course she is. She's yours too. Clara smiled. Yeah, she is. Adrian pulled her close. I've been thinking. About? About how different things would be if you hadn't shown up that night. You'd be fine. I'd be surviving, not living. There's a difference. Clara rested her head on his shoulder. Your father would be proud of what you've built, of who you've become. I hope so. I know so. They sat there in the quiet. The farm stretched out before them, fields and barns and life. Do you believe in second chances? Adrian asked. Clara thought about her father's letter, about walking 5 miles in the dark, about standing at Adrian's door with nothing but hope. Yeah, she said. I believe in second chances. What about third chances? Fourth? As many as it takes. Adrian kissed the top of her head. I love you. I love you too. And that was the truth, not the edited version, not the story you tell at parties. The messy, complicated, beautiful truth. That sometimes the best things in life come from the worst moments. That sometimes you have to lose everything to find what matters. That sometimes the person who saves you is a stranger who opens their door in the dark. Clara had arrived with nothing but a letter and a prayer. She'd found a home, a family, a life worth fighting for. And she'd learned something her father had tried to teach her all along. That the bravest thing you can do is ask for help. The strongest thing you can do is let someone in. The smartest thing you can do is hold on when everything tells you to let go. Victoria had wanted to destroy them. Instead, she'd made them stronger. The barn had burned, but they'd rebuilt. The business had almost failed, but it thrived. The marriage had started as a lie, but it became the most honest thing in Clara's life. Years later, when people asked how they met, Clara and Adrian would smile. They'd simplified the story, made it neat. But sometimes late at night, they'd tell the real version, the messy one, the one that didn't make sense on paper but made perfect sense in practice. They'd talk about the letter, the walk, the deal they'd made. And they'd remember that sometimes the most irrational decision you make is the one that saves your life. Adrian had been a billionaire who'd sworn never to love again. Clara had been a woman with nothing to lose. Together, they'd built something neither of them had known they needed. A home, a family, a future. And when Emma graduated college, top of her class, scholarship to law school, she gave a speech. My parents taught me that family isn't about blood, she said. It's about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you when the world falls apart. She looked at Clara and Adrian in the audience. They showed up for each other, and they showed up for me. That's what love looks like. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Clara cried through the whole thing. Adrian held her hand, and when it was over, when Emma ran down to hug them both, Clara thought about that night years ago, standing at Adrian's door, holding a letter, making a choice. She'd chosen to knock. He'd chosen to open the door, and everything that came after, the fear, the fights, the love, the life, it all came from that one moment, that one choice, to let someone in, to believe in second chances, to fight for what matters. Clara had come to Adrian's door looking for survival. She'd found something better. She'd found home,